So, hello everyone. Hi, Madalena. I'm João Moreira Pires. I'm your host for this evening here in Lisbon. Over in Porto, Madalena, how's everything?
Everything is great here, a little hot, and we are very honored to welcome you to the 50th Above and Beyond Hangout.
You heard it right. 50 editions, 50 months in a row. To put that into perspective, 50 months is enough time to have 5 babies and a sixth in production already. We've survived 50 months of market volatility and ag inflation of 40%. Honestly, flipping an omelet these days feels like a high-stakes deep tech investment.
Or, João, I don't know if you agree, but our Hangouts are almost having a midlife crisis. So with crisis comes change, and we're actually changed venues here in Porto. I don't know if you're able to see, but we changed, and we're right next to the sea. The sun is out, and we have a super full house, and we are ready to hear what's up with the ecosystem. So let me call to the stage, Startup Portugal's president, Alex Sanch. A round of applause, please.
Hi guys, hi everybody. It's really great to be here today. Namely in a great spot, a new spot for us and for the Hangouts that are celebrating, the 50th time that we're doing this. 50, that's a lot. First of all, I want to give a big thanks to Tiago and his team, the team from Workin and D-House that made this possible. It's a great partnership that we just closed with them, and I hope this is the first of many things that we're going to do together. So thanks a lot. So 50, I think that's a number that is going to be the norm for me this year because I'm going to be 50 as well. And now it's the time that you should say you don't look 50 or you look great. But basically, it's 50 times that we managed to join founders, investors, and people from the whole ecosystem on a weekday during the the evenings, even when it's raining and it's cold. We have honest conversations together and with no scripts, no keynotes. And I think it's the honest place in Portugal where we can talk about how hard it is to be a founder, what is being done out there, how exciting it is to be, living and working in these ages. So I think, we're here to do this more, 50 times more at least. We've been talking about tons of things, from defense tech to agro-tech to crypto-related stuff, climate. We've done things in the past that were, innovative. We did summer pitches, Christmas pitches, and we have a lot of ideas of what we can do that will be novel in the future as well. We've had more than 115 pitches so far, more than 200 speakers, and a lot more to come. Right, so we're really excited about keeping the tradition of doing a monthly hangout online in Porto and in Lisbon, and we're going to keep on doing that. Any ideas that you guys might have, just feel free to add to the list, and we'll try to do them. Right. A couple of things that I want to announce. Business Abroad is our program to actually help startups, founders, incubators, and investors explore new markets. We're still going this year to Brazil, to Canada, to Spain, and to France. We have in our site the registrations for the startups to apply and the founders to apply. I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to explore new markets with our help. So please have a look at that and apply. SIM conference. The clock is ticking. The team is starting to get nervous. We're gonna, have our third edition in May 14th and 15th. It's going to be a great event, hopefully. No, it's going to be a great event, right? And we already have more than 10 side events happening. So I think that's a great sign of how SIM is starting to grow beyond the official program that we're building. And so please go to the SIM site, buy your ticket, see what's going to happen, what kind of speakers we're going to have. We're going to have speakers from all over the world coming to Porto during those 2 days, hopefully with good weather like today. So don't forget about SIM. Next Hangout, it's going to be in April 29th. Here again, once more, hopefully warm as well. I like the warmth. In Lisbon as well, online as well. The theme is going to be SIM conference, what you should know. So we're going to do the prep for what's coming next in May. And basically that's it. So enjoy this event. We're going to have some beers after. And I think we have the best weather to then drink a little bit.
Thank you so much, Alex. Now that we're all up to date with the latest on the ecosystem, let's try something a bit different. To tell us all about Femtech Portugal, please welcome Leslie Farah. Come on, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to Startup Portugal for the invite. Pleasure to be here. I'm Leslie, co-founder of Femtech Portugal. Before telling you a bit more about Femtech Portugal, I'm not sure how it is. Okay, great. Let's set the scene with the definition of Femtech. So Femtech refers to technologies and innovation addressing unmet needs in diseases, conditions, and indications that solely, disproportionately, or differently impact the health of females. So when you think about conditions that solely impact female health, sorry, I'm having an issue with this pointer apparently. Oh, here. Sorry. So when you think about conditions that solely impact female health, you think about reproductive health, so everything from periods to menopause. However, there are conditions that affect the health of females disproportionately, like cardiovascular diseases, or differently, like autoimmune diseases and brain health. So it's a very big market, the women's health market. However, even if women are 51% of the population and women's health is a big market, women's health has historically been one of the most underfunded and under-researched areas in healthcare. So only 4% of global R&D funding goes to women's health research and only 1% outside cancer. Women's health receives very little private funding. And until 1993, females were totally excluded from clinical trials, which affects now our research and the drugs we get. Because of that, we decided to create Femtech Portugal. So we're building the first collaborative ecosystem to accelerate women's health innovation in Portugal and position Portugal as a national hub in women's health locally and also internationally. So we operate around 3 different pillars. Connect, the idea is to connect all the different stakeholders working in women's health, so the founders, the operators, the researchers, the investors. We also want to empower the innovators, the startup, by boosting their growth, their visibility, and finally advocate for change at a more national systemic level and hopefully influence awareness, policy, research, and funding. So we just started as a nonprofit in November, but we've been very active since, organizing monthly events, attending international conferences, building a community of more than 135 people, and having a lot of LinkedIn followers. So if you want to be one of us, you can follow this QR code, scan it, join our community, and help us drive women's health innovation in Portugal. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leslie. If you want to know more about this project, please reach Leslie at the networking moment. So let's start our pitches for today. So let me welcome to the stage Fahima Farahi, founder and CEO of Wise Worlds. A round of applause, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Fahima, co-founder and CEO of Wise Worlds. I pitched our MVP here in November 2023, and I want to update you what has happened to us since then. So, you all remember the ChatGPT moment. Everyone saw AI replacing jobs, and we saw something else. That if AI does the doing, being human is the edge. I'm talking about empathy, confidence, negotiation, and the rest of the soft skills. And soft skills becomes the skill, and harder skills become the commodity. So we built a playground for people, for the user to assess and develop their soft skills, total freedom and total customization. You can see the look and feel of the MVP version, very gamified, personalized, your own avatar, own goal, own path. Everything was amazing. There was just one problem. We gave people a blank canvas and 1,000 brushes. So you can see the problem. We had the engagement problem. We learned people don't care about soft skills. People care about getting promoted, acing interviews, handling conflict and difficult situation in their life. And also we learned everybody loves soft skills, but for other people, not for themselves. And also we learned too much choices means no choice. So we had many pivoted, and we believe in our latest version, we are in the right track. Now we are your AI for soft skills. Think of it like Lego. We share our AI infrastructure, avatar creation, goal, scenario, every brick for the Lego with you as a decision maker to set your direction, and then AI does the heavy part. When I'm saying you, I mean recruiters for hiring, learning and development for the training, HR for team dynamics, and team leads for one-on-one coaching. And the core of all these activities is this wheel chart, which we call it Power Wheel, 44 soft skills, 6 categories coming from more than 100 validated methodologies. Let's see one example for hiring. So I need a help to play the video. No, I think we passed one. Yes. So you paste your job description, and AI create a reference power wheel, reference soft skills profile, and based on that gives you a roadmap. You can edit the roadmap, make it fit for what you're looking for, and then share it with the candidates to start their assessment. And then they receive your invitation, go through the episodes, interact with other AI characters. As they interact in real time, we see which of 44 soft skills they are using, and they get scores to create the wheel chart. And then in the dashboard, you can see how each candidate is matched to the reference power wheel, to see the map of the reference power wheel and each candidate, and to make decision who is the most matched one for that job position. So our business model is credit-based, and we already have big names in our pipeline. And please scan my LinkedIn to be in touch with me, and catch me here. Would be happy to talk more about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fahima. Now, if you have any questions for Fahima over in Porto, please find her later during the networking moment. For the second startup pitch of this evening, please welcome here in Lisbon, Frederico Stock, co-founder of CleoCare.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much to Startup Portugal for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here again. The last time we were here, we were in May 2023, and we were called Gluma. You probably have heard of Gluma. Not working again. Okay, thank you. We did rebranding because in 2023, we shift our focus to the US market and to a more globalized vision. And the feedback that we received was, okay, great idea, it's wonderful what you are doing, but have you thought to change your name? And at the time we said, no, we haven't. We love our name, and everyone in Portugal already knows who we are. but they told us that gloomy in English is close to gloom, which is something dark, and we didn't want that associated to breast cancer. So we did a rebranding to CleoCare, associated to Cleopatra, a woman that represents empowering, because that's what we want to do to women. We want to empower them, and care, because we want women not only to feel empowered, but to empower to take care of themselves. That's not the only thing we changed. At the time, we had the Sense Glove and the mobile app to remind women to use our device, and the tutorial to make sure that we covered all the breast area. But we did some pilots, we did some clinical trials, and we understood that we were collecting a lot of data related to the things that can change the risk of a woman to have breast cancer. So with that data, we understood that we could develop a risk assessment tool that could be useful not only for the woman to understand the potential risk of having breast cancer, but also for doctors to prioritize women, understanding who could be the woman that could need first the screening of a mammogram, so they could use the resources in a better way at hospitals. Aside from that, we also decided that there could be some features that we could develop in our mobile app to fill some gaps in women's health. For example, not only the tracking of symptoms in the breast, but also in menopause, the menstrual cycle, endometriosis, because there are some things that women need, and they gave us that feedback to us, and those are the things that we also have been developing, and we are actually launching our mobile app to a specific group of people, very close ones, this month, the Women's Health Month. We also did a clinical trial. We published those results, but we did at the time a proof of concept that had great results, but this clinical trial didn't have the results we expected, because everything in a startup, it's not as beautiful as everyone sees. We also have some failure, and sometimes we don't have the results we expect. So we needed to do some changes in our Sense Glove. So our Sense Glove has changed a lot since the first time that we came here to do our pitch. And right now we have great results. We are able to detect the anomalies in the breast. And not only that, we are able to detect the difference in the pressure on the breast tissue. So we identified that the main causes is women with high density in the breast. So we identify the changes in women with high density in the breast tissue. For example, here in this image, you can see on the upper part, we have orange, an orange color, while close in the nipple, we have a blue color, which means that it's less dense, where we have more fat accumulated, while close to the armpit, we have less fat, so the tissue is more dense. And in red, we have three clear anomalies. We also did a pre-submission meeting with the FDA, so we published the paper. We did that clinical trial and that proof of concept. We are now starting a clinical trial with the University of Alabama and with Hospital da Luz, and we did a paid pilot with Sonai, and we are working with PLMJ and AstraZeneca to do another pilots. We also grew our team, and we are now 12 people with the help of doctors on our team. And the message that we want to pass to you is sometimes we need to fail to succeed, and people ask us, is your product on the market? Of course, after these 3 years, no, it's not. But I can give you the example of Elon Musk at SpaceX. They failed with 5 rockets before they could land a rocket with success. And they spent more than almost $1 billion in order to succeed. So let's blow some rockets, let's fail. And if you have that mindset, we are raising an investment round. And join us, because at CleoCare we cannot stop breast cancer, but we can help women stop dying from it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frederico. If you have any questions, once again, find them later during the networking moment. And now, let's move on to our panel discussion, talking about open innovation. Here in Lisbon, please welcome the incentives partner at KPMG Portugal, Paula Pinho. Come on, a round of applause. The head of strategy, new business and open innovation at Delta Cafés, Eunice Costa. Come on up to the stage. And finally, Gustavo Magalhães, director at BTI. Come on. And what about in Porto, Madalena?
So here in Porto, we have Mário Ribeiro Alves, co-founder and CEO at Taikai, and to moderate, our executive director at Startup Portugal, Miguel Aguiar.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today with us. It's a real pleasure to be celebrating the 50th session of Above and Beyond Hangouts with all of you here in Porto, here and Lisbon, and of course online. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I think it gained a lot of interest in the last few years, and that I believe it's been helping a lot of startups from one side, but also corporates from the other side, to overcome problems, to tackle some issues, to improve their products, a number of things. So I would like to start by asking in one or two sentences to each one of you, and thank you for being here as well. Sorry, I didn't compliment you in Lisbon, all the people there, and of course our guests. And so maybe starting with I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, maybe here, Mario. For you, in one or two sentences, what do you mean by open innovation? What is it for you?
Good question. Actually, I would like just to say something before that, which is there's this meme in the internet, which is we're so back, and open innovation is just that. So it was hyped during a few years when I started my company. It slowly started to die as a concept, and now it's coming back up. I actually did a talk about open innovation last week in Didas Porto, which was great. And what I explained to them is basically that open innovation is this concept that everyone understands, but not everyone has this framing, like specifically open innovation. And for me, the biggest key for doing open innovation is thinking what can help you outside of your context. And your context can be outside of your company or even outside of your department, because internal innovation can also be open innovation. So with just a small sentence, that would be it.
Okay. Eunice, from your side.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. So I think open innovations, it's much more about mindset. It's to open to new perspectives, new knowledge, new kinds of business, new kinds of process, because innovation is also about process and the way we mix different process, different industries, and then, of course, we could have this innovation. So for me, it's much more about the mindset, of course, and the way we put together different things.
Thank you very much. Paula, can you give us your thoughts about it?
Hi, Miguel. Thank you so much. I would say that open innovation is being willing to solve problems, to understand that sometimes our capabilities are not enough, to embrace the challenges that we have. So we have to gather partners and other entities that allow us to solve all situations and problems faster and with the right resources.
And investment.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Gustavo, do you want to give us your thoughts about it as well?
Sure, thank you. So hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here in this 50th edition. So for us, open innovation is essentially a structured process to bring together established companies with startups and fostering the collaboration between them. And I would like to say that it all stems from one very basic but essential assumption, which is no one can do innovation alone in this hyper-dynamic world, and therefore established companies need to tap into the state of the art, and startups need to get to talk to the larger companies to get to scale. So that's for us, essentially, in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're all agreeing that it will help either corporates on one side, startups on the other, and to tackle issues that can be overcome together in a new set of eyes and a new set of minds. And for that matter, Gustavo, so you are building with us, with Startup Portugal, the Matchbox, the program that we're going to launch in a few weeks. So for you, what is the problem that it's designed to solve for corporates and for startups?
Okay, great. Thank you for the question. And Matchbox is essentially a matching platform that we're very excited to build and hope and essentially show it to you when the time is right. And so tries to solve obviously a number of problems. There's a lot to improve in the process, but I would try to potentially pinpoint what we believe it's a difficulty that happens, which is access, essentially. So it's not obvious for a number of companies. We typically think of corporate companies, and we take this example, but not all companies are corporates. Most of the companies are not corporates, and therefore often companies that would like to step into this open innovation game have a tough time accessing startups. They're not sure how to work with them. They're not sure which doors to knock. And on the side of the startups, it's always the same problem. You want to go and knock on potential clients' doors, and there's also an issue of access. So we essentially stripped down the process of open innovation to a very agile process that happens within the platform. And with this, we really try to bring value at that very early stage of the journey, which is making sure that both sides feel that they have access to the other side. And we just essentially support the process for it to happen seamlessly.
Okay. Mario, I think you have a great knowledge as well in this kind of interactions. But I wanted to understand and take in consideration what was being said already. What do you see as a pattern that separates partnerships that work from those who don't work? And what is this? Why does this happen?
Yeah. So I'll try to provide my context within my own company and product. So we are a little bit a level down between making partnerships between corporates and startups. We are doing hackathons. So by doing hackathon, it's more experimental, more short-term lived. It's actually seeking for prototypes instead of startups. I think that startups may come next. And within that, I think that the way that a good partnership is able to work is through the right goals and also incentives. So the right goals is trying to define clearly which is, for example, the brief for that specific hackathon or challenge, or if it's corporate working with a startup, defining specifically what is expected from that startup early on, and what is the incentive. In the hackathons, typically there are some prizes. In some cases, the possibility of working for that company. In the case of a startup, I think that the incentive should be what comes next after a pilot, because that's very important for a startup to know if they have something beyond a pilot and a use case, or if it's just something that will be just in that specific time frame, and it will die eventually.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. And connecting with this, Paula,
Yeah.
how do when you enter mainly a corporate, I would say, how do you identify what is where is open innovation is going to bring more value? How you identify the either the challenge, the process? How do you identify that it's going to bring more value to the company on one side, and of course there are going to be a better response from the startups that are going to respond.
So first, to better to understand it, we have to understand clearly the needs, clearly the challenges, and focus on what we want to solve, and then understand well where we can find and make the fit, the proper fit. For instance, understanding the startups' challenges, where they're willing to go, and how they are willing to play together, to work together, to solve those challenges, and of course, with a clear communication, everything is able to be done. Okay, but mostly we have to be very clear about what we want and understand the right decision maker, who will be the person that is the key keeper, to understand that all that we are discussing will be possible to proceed. Otherwise, if we are not with the one that makes the decision, we will certainly fail. If we are not with a startup that is able to engage and with the ability to listen and to move forward, it will also be a challenge to succeed.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we heard the consultancy part, the platform part. I would like to hear from the customer, the corporate part. And Eunice, how do you make sure that you are doing innovation and that innovation brings value from something that basically an innovation agenda that I want to talk and put on out there? Then how do you make this driven by real business needs?
I think this is the most important question, because at this moment, what I am feeling in organizations, it's about we are enter in the different phase of the process, okay? The corporates at these moments are decreasing the investments in open innovation. Why? Because inflations, the wars, and they needed to have some success. And then the directors of our organizations are focused on the core. They try to not see nothing else, so now they are focused in the core, and these kinds of increase of course, the raw material. So at these moments, I am feeling we are in the, let's say, a changing moment, okay? And this is why at last year, we changed a little bit about what we are looking for, because we, as lots of other corporates, are looking again for the core business and not for all these kinds of disruptions, innovations, do you know? So we try to look for the business, to looking for how can increase the core of the business, and then we decrease the investment for these new kinds of disruption innovations. So, and I think we need as a ecosystem to discuss this. Okay, because at this moment we are in the mature phase in Portugal, and people don't believe anymore in a lot of startups. Okay, this is not now to make numbers of programs, to make numbers with startups at the end, who is the rate of success. Okay, and this is the main importance, because of course the startups invest, corporates that invest, and at the end, what are the results? This is the main question. We need to do it. And at these moments, I felt my directors and also the other corporates are focused and try to increase the sales with a lot of these kinds of, let's say, external factors. And but the answer to your question, and because I launch a lots of innovation as a brand manager in Group Nabeiro, it's about to understand not only what the companies are trying to achieve, but also the people who are driving the business. This is so much important, because please buy it, the last editions of the magazine of Harvard Business Review. It's about why we are failing in the scale-ups, because sometimes we bring some startups, but after 2 or 3 years, forgot it. The marriage not, we divorce, okay? Like a marriage. So at the end, the rate of success is too low. So we need to understand our directors, we need to understand now the drive of the organizations, and try to, let's say, to make partnerships with the both parts wins. And sometimes the corporates say, oh, a nice product, a nice service. And the startup also see, wow, a nice investor. But they don't build nothing together. And this is the detail we need to work and to work together. And it's like a marriage. Each part needs to invest, needs to understand the other part, okay? And we are now in the critical moment. We are. But at the end, we have startups with the success. I don't know if you know Sui ice creams. It was a lovely dating I have with them. A lovely 6 months of dating. Then we married. And it's about, yes, it's true. And I need to prepare all the process together. Let's say, I don't know the word, but in parallel with the organizations, do you know? I need to dating first. I need to create something together to present to the company. Otherwise, forget it. If we, do you know, stay at home, our home, and say, I have ice creams here, do you want to invest? Forget it. We need to create something building together, and then presents to the companies. And sometimes startups don't have this perspective, and also corporates don't have. So if you ask me, we need to have the right mindset. And then, of course, we have startups we have with a lot of success. But let me say to you, takes a lot of work, do you know? Because we need to translate the language. This is so much important. Startup language, corporate language, the way they work it. So this is why my area, my unity, have these kinds of translating. I used to say I am a translator, okay? Only that. Because we need to protect also
I can relate to that,
Okay, so, and this is why. But
different languages.
Yeah. But this is the moment we need to reflect about the ecosystem of innovations, because I think more than ever we need these kinds of innovation, but in the right way to have these kinds of marriage. Sorry to speak a lot, but
no, for sure. I can relate. I can relate to that, and I think that for a partnership like that to work, it needs to be both of the sides to be working together into the same objective, and I think that needs to be done from day one, when they contact you in the first time. And you, I believe, Delta, with all the innovation that you've been making, I believe you may have a lot of startups contacting you in order to, I don't know, make business, be invested, a lot of different approaches. From your perspective, what are the main errors that startups do when they enter in contact with Delta?
I think two. One is to approach the corporate saying, I need investment, I need help. But they don't say, I could help you with this, this, and this. Okay, this is the main, because the entrepreneur have these kinds. This is my son, my daughter. Do you know? This is something. It's visual, and sometimes they have this dating and say, "I am so nice, I am so beautiful," but forget the other part. Okay, this is the first error. The second one, it's about what I'm listing today. It's very important, guys. You need to understand your unique selling propositions. What you have, no one's have. This is so much important because you have a app, because you have a product. But then you need to say why these are unique in the world. Because sometimes you bring a lot of solutions, and I receive the same solutions from other startups. And I ask, what you have, no one's or no else, no other startup have. Okay, and this needs to be very clear. Okay, could be the brand, could be the values, could be the entrepreneur, could be the price, could be the technology, could be, do you know? But you need to have very clear your distinction, your uniqueness. And you forgot to say that in these kinds of relationships, okay? Why you and not another startup? This is the main things, these two
What are the
things.
key differentiators and how can
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
startup can help a corporate?
Yeah. To
Thank
have
you.
this clear, not clear, simple and clear. And the
Yeah.
corporates buy this if you approach in these kinds of partnership mindset and you have a unique value proposition well defined.
Yeah.
Okay?
Gustavo, thank you. Gustavo, what are the non-negotiables you're building into the program, the Matchbox, to make it sure it leads to real outcomes and not just to meetings?
Right, that's a good question. Well, before I answer that, Miguel, if I may, just trying to follow up
Of
on
course.
Mrs.
This is a conversation. You don't need to wait
Yeah,
for my
I,
questions, please.
thank you. I think it's particularly important what Eunice brings in terms of an overall reflection about where we are, where we should go in terms of an innovation ecosystem. I would just like to say that from my point of view, and I think I'm not alone here, there's kind of a mismatch in terms of different time frames. So the time frame of an open innovation program, whatever that is, will be a few months long. The time frame that it takes for a solution that is sourced through an open innovation program to actually take effect and be able to hit the business case that the executives are looking for will almost never be done in a few months. So we're typically talking about over a year or more than that. And so that becomes a very hard problem to solve, and I believe that no one has been able to solve it directly. And as Eunice says, we should all reflect. I would just like to bring a couple of things. The fact that it's a very hard problem doesn't mean we can't do anything about it. So there's things we can do. One of the things that we can do is to experiment with different geometries, different variations of what a classic open innovation program is. So, for example, exploring things like venture clienting, which essentially is a variation of open innovation, the classic, we would say that. And
let me say something.
Yeah?
At this moment, we are talking about much more about venture client than investment. We are changing because the companies don't want to invest, and then they now, all the companies are talking, or corporates are talking about venture clients. Why? Because it's more cheap, more faster, and less risk.
Exactly, and typically it adds more of operational value, what we were talking about, working with the core. So not exploring so much disruption, but really adding incremental innovation with startups. So that's one thing we can do. Another thing that we can do, and we're actually doing that with Matchbox, is actually extending this notion of corporates, right? So we've been talking about corporates and startups, but as I said before, most of the companies are not corporates, and we are excluding that from our narrative, right? So, for example, exploring established companies that are not necessarily corporates, but would be willing to take the step, I think it's also another way we can start to explore with different variations and hopefully trying to bring more value that we have been able to. So, thank you. Miguel, back to your question. What are the non-negotiables that we are doing in the platform? I would say that we are being very, very adamant about making sure that it's a very agile and lean process. And to do so, we actually have no meetings throughout the whole journey except for the last step, where we've been able to de-risk and accelerate the whole process. When they actually meet for a deep dive meeting, they can extract the most value out of it. So we have essentially one full meeting to bring it all together and then make a decision on whether to proceed or not. So yeah, we don't really like meetings so much in terms of creating value. I think we all agree on that. So we're really trying to do that concretely in Matchbox. Thank you.
Thank you. So, and picking this topic, Mario, for you, what does a good follow-up looks like?
I think that a good follow-up looks like typically in a very well-defined time frame. This was something that was already mentioned, but I think it's worth mentioning again. So there needs to have expectation, and both startups and corporates have expectations in terms of how they perceive the relationship. And if the timeline is something that they are able to tackle right away, I think it's important. Why? Because if a startup has a runway of 6 months, and by runway I mean money to survive as a company, and if the corporate has 1 year of negotiation period, then there's a mismatch. And if there's a mismatch, there will never be a follow-up because nothing will happen in the meanwhile. So that is something that I believe it's very important, but at the same time, I think that a good follow-up typically is, again, defining clearly what is required for the next step. So each time there is a meeting, and as was mentioned, we don't like meetings so much because at some point we believe that is a waste of time, but at the same time it's the perfect opportunity to set up the expectations. So use that time specifically to say what is required in terms of next steps for the next meeting. Even though if the next meeting will happen in a month or 6 months or whatever the time frame. So for me, that's the follow-up that is needed.
Okay. Paul, and taking this in consideration, and when you're looking at a corporate that wants to build a pilot with a startup, what should be in place in the early settlements, so that funding and incentives don't become a blocker later?
Okay, so nice question. So we should say that first, establish well what's the purpose, where you want to go, with what kind of resources that you will have available. Control the ambitions. Of course, you have to be ambitious, but be careful because funding can be a temptation to increase your ambition, but sometimes it's really hard to achieve some results where the ambitions are too high. Try to keep the process simple with accountable people taking care of the projects. And of course, the right communication, the clear communication, and monitor well every work that you perform. Control your partnerships when you are talking about partnerships, your KPIs. Again, of course, you have to be ambitious, but be careful. Otherwise, you may compromise all that funding. and be aware that you may be audited when you will get the funding, but it can still be very helpful for you to scale up your ambitions and succeed also in situations of open innovation when you are not dealing alone with your challenges.
So, great. And just one last question, Paula.
Yeah.
Regarding the SIM corporate program by KPMG, I don't know if you want to talk a little about that and what would be the ingredient for a good match between a corporate and a startup?
Okay. So first of all, the SIM corporate program ambitions to make the match, the right match between what it is the interests from corporates, startups, investors. It's kind of making it real, the dream of the SIM conference event. I would say it in a nutshell, that's our vision, making the success of entrepreneurship and real, okay? So if we want to succeed with the program, we must start before understanding well what are the goals of each corporate that we may assist in doing this match. After understanding it well, who will be following up with us the matching with the right startups, with the right players in the event that will be able to answer and eventually address the challenges that will be presented. And of course, it's not only getting to know people, it's about the follow-up process, okay? We have to stick and take advantage of that moment to be something that has consequences. And thus, we have to be motivated to continue the path with the corporates, with the startups, and make it succeed. Of course, with the right motivation, that may also be grants and incentives. But of course, we have all to have open mind from the corporate side, but also from the startup side, to ensure that that will succeed with a clear vision, with the right communications, with the right monitoring, and of course, with the right engagement.
Okay, thank you very much. And I just wanted to ask very briefly, because we must go to Q&A, very briefly, one do and don't for a startup to approach a corporate. Mario, do you want to? Yeah, because I'm going to run this question through all of you, so very briefly.
Yes. Well, I think that now we're seeing the rise of AI, and I think that specifically AI will help startups to become faster into developing products. That's great. So software development is something that used to take a very long time, and now it's shorter. So in terms of do's, I would say that grabbing clients or corporates' feedback in this case, it will be easier because you'll be able to develop faster your product. And it also applies on the other side, right? So on the corporate side, you now have these AI tools that can help you evaluate startups, that can help you to fast track that whole process and reduce the time of actually creating a relationship with a startup. One thing that is not replaceable, and one thing that I believe it's a don't, picking up in what Eunice mentioned, trying to deliberately pushing an agenda and saying, I really need your money, or I really need investment, I really need you to buy me something. This is something that won't stick. And building trust takes time. And there isn't any technology, not even AI, that will replace that. So for me, that's a don't, or in this case, a do build trust.
Thank you. Gustavo, do you want to very briefly, do's and don'ts for startups to approach corporates?
Sure. I really like this saying sometimes we hear, which is innovation is fragile, right? So you can really break at any point. What we see from the point of view of an enabler, facilitator, what we do is that if I would like to highlight one risk factor for breaking that possible collaboration with the corporate is not being prepared for the meeting. So what do I mean with this? What we see often, unfortunately, is startups are obviously very busy and they're doing multitasking constantly. And people on the side of the corporates are typically very, I would say, knowledgeable about what the problem is. They don't have also time to waste. And therefore, the worst thing that we can see a startup doing, the way of saying, of course, is coming there with a very generic approach, right? So if you want to really try to engage the corporate, I would say is really try to make it personalized, whatever it is that you're offering, to really bring the value for the specific context of the corporate. Each corporate has a specific context, right? If you have to be able to resonate with that context in specific, otherwise it's very easy to just be one more.
Okay, thank you very much. Eunice,
Miguel,
very briefly, please.
I know that, but we don't talk about to go to market, because go to market is a very essential part for the success of a startup. We are only talk about the matching, but at the end, please don't say to a corporate, don't say your app, your solution is for everyone. Okay? You need to have a target. You need to have a communication target. It's different, okay? And you need to know very well your target, okay? This is something you need to do it. And then again, sometimes the startups go to the market and say, wow, I have my product on the shelf, amazing. This is nothing. 6 months after, you are saying, Sonai, take me off. OSHA, take me off. And why? Because you don't have a strategy, you don't have a go-to-market, you don't have something to say, this is different than the other products, okay? So the creativity, the cooperations, the co-collaborations, it's so, so, so important, okay? So, and the startups needs to think about it, okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Paula?
So, I would say that, of course, building the relation, building trust, that's the word we use at KPMG, building trust. But be ready and open to adapt, to evolve with the corporates, and open your minds also to make it succeed. Don't, on the contrary, I would say, don't stick linked to your initial idea. Understand that sometimes you may in fact be bolder in your challenges, and of course, if you are going to grants, be careful. Don't be too ambitious, but still be it to succeed.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we have a list of do's and don'ts and how startups can approach startups. But I would like to open the question to the audience, and so either here in Porto or there in Lisbon. I don't know if you have any questions. I think a mic must be.
Miguel, can you hear me?
Somewhere.
We have one here in Lisbon.
Yes.
Okay, so we talked about trust, and Gustavo said it right nice that open innovation is fragile. And I wanted to understand, how would you tackle intellectual property in such a collaboration, especially when it is created during this venture, right? And how can both sides benefit, and also the startup be protected in a way?
Who do you wish it could be the answer? From whom?
Gustavo and the panel, whoever wants to go first.
Thank you for the question. I think it's a very important question that we deal with in practice in different programs. To try and make my answer short, I would say it's finding the sweet spot, because you don't want to be too cautious at the beginning. So if you bring an NDA right at the beginning, I mean, most startups will be like, I don't have time for this, right? I haven't even started talking. And so you don't want to do that. At the same time, if you're dealing with like actual real problems that can generate real value in companies, then most likely that information at some point will be, confidential or sensitive. And therefore, what we do is whenever we have a program that we believe will have that kind of depth in the problem solution fit, we bring some sort of intellectual property mechanism like an NDA or something else to make sure that after that there's a safe space both for the startup and the company to follow on with the conversation. But again, where you place it in the process, I think it's a very case-by-case approach. Sometimes we don't even do it if we believe, because that's something you don't want to do because it can be a barrier, right? So you only do it if you have to. But we see more and more, again, if we're talking about real value, no innovation theater, the more and more you go close to that value, more and more it'll be, sensitive information. So often now we are dealing with that need to bring some sort of safety mechanisms in terms of IP. Thank you.
Paula.
I can add something there. As you may imagine, when you are talking about grants, you have a lot of situations when the projects are developed in consortia. And that is a critical point from the beginning of the project. Because the different players that are gathering for the project have to align by in issue, as we say in Latin, what will be the intellectual property arising from there and who will be the owner. There is generally an agreement, a specific agreement, a formal agreement to protect all the entities that are in the consortia. And that is indeed critical to move forward with the results of the project that is going to be funded, for instance, okay? You have a lot of situations like that. The challenge is if you don't proceed with a consortia for that problem solving, then eventually you may not succeed or you will take too long. The time to market will not be accomplished. So it's a critical point, but generally what we see is that the entities that are proceeding with the R&D activities are willing to share the intellectual property, but of course do it by in the beginning of the project, not when the results are done. Otherwise, it will be impossible to manage it.
Can I just comment something? Sorry,
Yeah, please.
very quickly, because I think Paula brought, I think, the perfect follow-up of my question, of my answer, because my answer really focused on the process, right? And Paula is giving you, I think, the perspective from the results. So your question, I think, is really great in that sense, because we can talk about the process itself and the IP related to the results. For example, when there's some sort of co-creation, right? Sorry, Eunice, go ahead. Thank you.
So about the corporate, I don't have these general visions, only our model, and we are unique because our values, because we are trying to have different innovation inside of our home, but we try to help the entrepreneur as a business. So the entrepreneurs have he maintains his position like a CEO. He is the owner of the business, So this is a different kinds of model, different than the market. So this is only our reality, okay?
Yeah, of course. So I've seen people that have an idea and that want to protect that idea and that typically ask companies, either clients, investors, or whatever, to sign an NDA. My opinion on that is that, one, your idea is probably something that already someone thought about, so you're not protecting anything, and it's useful to ask for an NDA. I think it's actually rude for the other person on the other side of the table to ask for that. And at the same time, typically, corporate clients don't care about your idea or what you're doing. Why? Because they have more things to do than to steal your idea and your startup. So it's actually better to come with an open position, again, open-minded and trying to make collaboration and building that trust instead of inverting that from the get-go.
For sure. Thank you very much. I don't know if is there any question in the house? Yeah, one
Can't
more.
hear you, Miguel. Sorry.
Hello, hello.
Nope.
Hey, hey. Now you hear me?
Yeah, now we do.
Yeah. Just saying that we have time for one more question. I don't know if you have one here.
There's
It's
one
important.
in the
Everything
back
is
here in
clarified.
Lisbon.
A quick one, please. The beers are waiting.
We have questions here in Lisbon.
Go, go. Oh, I thought you were already asking them.
Yeah. Cool. Hey guys, thank you so much for the talks. My question is for Gustavo, but of course anyone can answer. We all talk about results. Should I? Oh God. We all talk about results, and the open innovation theater is almost over, and we are really focused on the results, and we need to prove the value of open innovation. So regarding the future, why does the corporates don't gather the data? So how many pilots do you did? What's the conversion? What's the solutions that you add to the portfolio? Why does our corporate innovation community is so defragmented? Why we don't talk to each other, and why we don't have that data to measure the results so we can show to our chiefs and so on? What is lacking here? Thank you.
Great question.
That's a quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't be able to answer that from the corporate point of view. I would just like to maybe comment on something which is maybe demystifying this concept of innovation theater. I think it got a kind of a bad name recently because there's so much pressure to get to like concrete results. But at least in my perspective, innovation theater it can be very valuable depending on what your results are. So my point is, back to your question, it really all stems from what is your end game for this initiative on open innovation. And it can be solving a very specific problem that you have in the production line, something as operational as that. But it can be so much more than that. It can be showing that your brand is innovative. It can be developing the muscle internally to go through this process, etc. It can be developing the mindset. So there's a number of reasons why you could do it. And I think that innovation theater, which is typically something more close to, let's say, marketing, right, in terms of showing numbers and showing, I think that still has a place. I think what's been lacking, trying to answer the question, is that clarity of definition of what the end goal is for what we're trying to do with this open innovation initiative. If that happens every time, I'm sure we would have had more data by now to try and understand what's working and what's not. If you don't have that clear definition from the get-go, then very likely it's going to be hard for you to understand whether you hit the target or not, and mostly why you did or you didn't hit the target. You need that data.
Thank you very much, Gustavo. I think it's time for us to make a wrap. Basically, in trying to summarize, I think we could have, I don't know, more 3 or 4 talks like this.
Yeah. Agora não estamos a ouvir.
Oh, yeah?
Lost
Okay,
you
sorry,
again?
something. Yeah, no. I think we could have 3 or more talks about this topic. I think the end game now, I think it's preparation, and for startups to start working with corporates, it's always prepare for each approach that you make for each of the corporate. And I would say, let me just put some of my experience here as well in terms of approaching a corporate. On one side, you have startups with, I don't know, 1 or 2 guys that do this kind of work, but on the corporate side, you have 5, 6, 7 guys that you need to talk before reaching the right guy. So I think you should make a good preparation in terms of knowing who are you going to talk about, who are you going to talk to. Maybe that is not the specific person for the end game. It's a point of entrance. And so, and maybe you have to talk to 3, 4 more people, and you should make a conversation directed to each person, and not an overview of your product. You should direct it, and of course, Startup Portugal. Hello? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. No, we have a problem here. It's okay. Thank you. Hello. Yeah. So Startup Portugal is here to help you. We have the one-stop shop also to help you going through this journey, and count us in, and please be here on the 29th, I think, of April again. But I would pass the word to João and Madalena.
So thank you very much for this amazing panel discussion. I hope we can make more people join Open Innovation. Thank you. So before we go, I would like to let you know again and remind you to buy tickets for Sim Conference. And last but not the least, João, tell us who we have to thank for these amazing Hangouts.
So we thank to our partners, and I ask you to applaud them as I name them. So first and foremost, Porto City Council, Investors Portugal, 351 Portuguese Startup Community, Ferroviário, Workin, UPTech, Sograp, and Supergabok Group. It was a pleasure to be your co-host, Madalena. Thank you so much for joining us, and let's go for a drink.
Let's
thank
go.
you, Gustavo, Eunice, and Mario for this wonderful talk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's grab a drink.
Thank you.